To get us popped in, for those of you who do not know me, welcome. My name is Diana Place, and I'm the founder of Third Act Quest and our community called the 333 Collective. There are a number of women here tonight from 333. Thank you for being here. I want to just say that this Third Act Spotlight is very exciting, sort of coming on the heels of what was an annual Third Act Quest storytelling event. I decided that by featuring really inspiring speakers who get to share their expertise and have really cool, engaging conversations with us around a whole range of hot topics that Third Act women care about, everything from health and well-being, career reinvention, entrepreneurship. Oh, here, I've got to let people in here, sorry. Entrepreneurship, relationships, finances, creativity, travel. So you'll be hearing a lot of different things over time. Tonight's speaker is Danielle Duplin. She's the president of, there she is waving at us, she's president of Free Wind Productions, which is she's an award-winning speaking coach. So we're getting some very valuable insight from her tonight. She's also an executive producer of strategic innovation programs. She's a co-founder of Agency, which is worldwide innovation for living longer and aging better. Sorry, I'm multitasking the waiting room here. As well as a really cool organization called Founders Over 55 Plus. She'll share tonight what she calls the elevated elevator pitch workshop. And as she says, and she sent me an email and did actually post today, she was beautifully said, everybody has something important to say. So tonight you'll get to practice with her guidance. She'll talk about how to decide what you say in a short amount of time to get more attention and spark action. So one more thing, I just want to share Danielle's sort of what I see as a very beautifully blended third act. She's had over 30 years of diverse experience. And when I say diverse, I mean diverse. As a corporate executive, a software engineer, an entrepreneur, a nonprofit board member, startup advisor, MC facilitator, and TEDX curator and executive producer, a public speaking coach, and I love this one, a global ecosystem builder. She helps her clients inform, inspire, and influence their audiences and move bold ideas into action. And when she's not doing that, let's hope she's doing some sleeping because, oh my gosh, my dear, you're amazing. I'm going to be, after she gets going, I'm going to be putting her LinkedIn link in the chat. So I would encourage you all to follow her and to reach out to her if you want to dig in more deeply and get your elevated elevator pitch together. So welcome, Danielle. Thanks for being here tonight.
Oh, thank you, Diana, for that beautiful introduction. And it's so fabulous to meet the community that you are creating and building and breathing life into. And I recognize some folks from the Storyteller event. And of course, I recognize some peeps from our Founders Over 55 Collective, Mary, co-founder, and Rebecca, who has been so generous with her time as well. So, and it's just so wonderful to have you all here because I know that you are all dynamic, ambitious, curious women and men. I think we might have some men here, but that you all are living lives of intention and that you have big dreams that you want to manifest in the world. And so much of your path on achieving what you want to achieve is to rally other people to your cause. And that could be a one-on-one conversation with a potential collaborator, investor, partner, customer, board member, you know, whoever like it is that is going to help you, you know, together be better. And it could be, hang on one second, I'm getting cancel. All right, I'm getting some technical issues here. Or it could be like to a huge group of people, like if you're doing a startup pitch fest, or you're speaking to your community or an association or a large company or at an all hands meeting. The whole idea of public speaking is to manifest an idea in somebody else's mind, right? So that they own it too, and that they have a piece of the action to move that idea forward. They feel ownership on their piece of making this idea happen in the world. So how many of you here are kind of nervous about public speaking? Yes. No. Okay. Well, that's okay. Public speaking ranks higher than fear of snakes, fear of death, fear of like lots of things. So we know that it can be a very nerve-wracking, anxiety-producing activity. But here's the first lesson. Lead with love. Lead with why you are speaking. When you speak with love and passion and genuineness, then it's okay. The audience can sniff it out. They will forgive you. They will not be judging you. That is just not really why the audience is there. The audience is there because they want to receive and they want to contribute. All right. So I want you to just write down on a little piece of paper why you're doing the speaking that you're doing. And before you go into any one-on-one, any big event, just jot down in your notes on a little card, however you want to do it, just say like your why you are having this conversation, and let that lead you. Okay. So that's first. I'm going to share my screen because we are going to go through an actual little deck here. Okay. So, but there's got to be way more to it than that. And there is. And so what we're going to do is going to go through a real like interactive session here, because I want you all to get a chance to practice. So as we go through kind of a structured way to get your point across, I'm going to be calling upon you, or I'd like for you to volunteer to share what's on your mind and to try it out. Because the second rule of public speaking is never give up a chance to practice. Stage time, stage time, stage time. Whenever you are asked to volunteer, or you're asked to give a presentation, or you're asked to like lead a meeting, the answer should always be yes. Because the more you do it, the easier it gets. The other point is that the more you do it, the more you will understand what clarity looks like and feels like on the part of your audience. Because you're going to be sharing what you want to share in front of a lot of different persona types, folks who might want to invest with you, folks who might want to partner with you, folks who might be customers, folks who might be amplifiers. They're all going to want to hear something different about your idea. And so how you say your idea over and over again, with all these different personas, if you will, they're going to ask you clarifying questions in return. They'll say, well, tell me more about that. Or what did you mean by that? Or I have this question. And the more you give and receive and give and receive and give and receive, you're going to be so fine-tuned with your responses. You're almost going to be able to anticipate what the questions might be. And you bake that into your pitch. Okay. So listen as much as talk is really this point. Listen actively. And the kinds of questions and the kinds of feedback that you get from your audience, those are going to be clues as to how clear you've been. As Diana mentioned in the opening remarks, I started a global innovation ecosystem called Agency. And this is for innovation for age tech, for living longer and aging better. And, we got funding from Governor Baker's administration. We got funding from some of the largest nursing or senior home operators. We got funding from overseas. So, it took a lot of iteration to describe our value proposition and to use the language for what we were building in a way that resonated with those folks in order to get them to write a check and to share their reputation risk with us, right, as a partner. So all of this is leading up to the first point, and that is what's in it for them. So as we go through this this workshop, we're going to return to this point over and over and over and over and over and over again. okay? Because this is really where the magic lies. And so just by way of process, Diana, are you, do you want people to kind of raise their hand with the hand icon?
It's up to you. If you want, verbal interaction during the talk, then yes, do that.
Okay.
Or, or put something in the chat, because, I'm not always able to see all the hands, at once. So maybe actually let's use the chat. If you have a question, then I can call on them for you. How about that, Danielle?
Okay, so chat for questions, but when I say, okay, who wants to try it, then let me see your hand, the
Perfect.
hand icon, and I'm going to call on you because you're part of the, okay, part of the, how does that work?
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. All right, I'll watch the chat too. I just opened it up. Okay, so when we started, well, first of all, before we get into it, so do all of you have like a little something to work on, right? It could be something real, it could be something you made up, but you've got like an upcoming conversation that you want to have, right? It'll be so much more effective if you've got something that you're working on. Okay. Okay. So when we say what's in it for them, that is the opposite of like you being nervous about you, right? So be nervous about you for about a split second, and then think about the audience, because that is why you are having this conversation. And generally speaking, for business pitches, which is pretty much what we're focusing on here, they're in it for a couple of reasons. Okay, professionally, generally speaking, they want to make the most money in the fastest amount of time with the least amount of risk. So if you're trying to pitch a business solution of any kind, just like hit these three things, and make sure that you say it in terms that they understand. Okay. I'm not going to go into the details here, but have this as like a little checkbox. Have you addressed, you might be so in love with your product or solution or idea and so forth, but unless the person who's listening is going to be able to make money, is not going to have to spend a lot of time doing it, and they're not going to have a heavy lift, or put too much on the line, that they're going to want to hear that you understand that on their behalf. And personally, they're also, people, right? So it's very likely that they're also in this conversation because they want to fulfill some of their own goals. Maybe they have, promotion goals, or maybe they want to get famous, or maybe they, they have a personal mission, and by meeting you and hanging out with you, like it helps to fulfill their goals, right? And usually that has to do something with some kind of growth in some way, moving forward in some way. And really, who doesn't want to be a hero? Everybody wants to have an impact in this world, whether it's small, whether it's big. And if aligning with your idea helps them to achieve any one of these or all six in some way, you've nailed it. Okay. And here's really what people don't want. They don't want FOMO. They don't want to be left out. They don't want to be the last one. They don't want to be the one to miss the investment. They don't want to be the one to miss the opportunity to partner. They don't want to be the one to be the headliner with you. They don't want to miss the opportunity to get in early, or, they don't want to miss the opportunity to look good in front of their peers. So when you keep these in mind, it'll help you edit down what you want to say, because this is the filter by which they are listening. Okay. So I'll just pause there for a second. Any questions? This resonate with you guys? Yeah. Okay. So we haven't once, money isn't shareable with quantity. Yes. So money. So great point. So most amount of money. So really you could say, like, what is the metric that moves them? Like if you're talking a social enterprise, it might very well be like lives saved, or, the impact on certain constituents, right? But still
money is always going to be a factor. But yes, it could be other metrics that matter. So great point, Kimberly. Thank you. All right. So what we're doing here is also embedding some storytelling and really doing the emotional tug, right? And the whole thing here is to construct what I call a shared future. All right. And this is where it's really important that they understand how they are part of this dream you have. Okay.
So, so when you think about like the movie credits, right? Like we always think about the stars, right? But key grip number one, like wants to see their name up in the credits too. So when you're talking to somebody, try to understand priority around like, are they key grip number one? Are they the star of your show? Because, you know, they're going to need and want different value from you. You know, key grip number one, be like, listen, just, you know, just like make sure that I get a little bit of credit. You know, the star is going to say, make sure that you don't ruin my reputation too, or make sure that we both amplify our reputations together. You know, so it's important that that you recognize the role that somebody has, you know, in advancing your idea and to speak to that. Okay. And now we're going to get into the practice because you got to make it snappy. So we're calling this the elevated elevator pitch because sometimes you really only have 90 seconds or 2 minutes, or in the case of like when I was at my employer, Fidelity Investments, we literally organized what we call like the elevator pitches, like the CTO and CIO elevator pitches. We were in a 14-story building. So we would put our CIOs and CTOs in the elevator and we'd have people jump on and go 14 floors up and down. And that's all the time that they had to talk about their big idea. so you really, you know, you got to make it snappy, but, you know, it's not only just a function of time, it's really a matter of editing and getting things short, distilled, high impact, few, like least amount of words with the most amount of meaning. You know, think haiku, right? And that's another reason why to keep practicing, because you're going to find you'll be able to get your point across shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. I do this workshop where, you know, we say what you want to say, we record it, we get the transcripts and so forth. And then whatever it is, we're going to take it in half. And then whatever that is, we're going to take it in half again. And we might even take it in half again. And it is agonizing, but the fewer words that you can say, the more people will be able to remember it when you're not in the room and they can walk away on your behalf. And that's how things go viral. Okay. When things are short and sweet. So the elevator pitch. And Diana, we have till 6:30, right? My time? Okay. All right. We're good for time, right? All right. So the classic elevator pitch. Now, I'm sure many of you are super familiar with this, but let's go through it. Introduce yourself. And then I'm going to use this example about putting beehives on rooftops as an example, but I'm going to hear from your examples in a moment. So hi, I'm Danielle and I sell rooftop apiaries to businesses so that everybody can have a beehive on their roof. Okay, frame the problem. So we're at a climate crisis, pollinators are dying mysteriously, habitat loss. We need to create more opportunities for more bees to make more honey. We have a solution where we come to your company, we put beehives on the roof, we study the health of the beehive, we get the data, you get the honey, and it's all done at a very low price. We're very, very good at this. We've got installations all over the city, we've got installations all over the world, and we're making an actual difference in climate change. So we'd love $25,000 and we'll come next Tuesday, install like 6 beehives on your roof. Okay. I mean, it was okay, right?
I'll say yes.
Okay. But you know, are we moving anybody? Are we shaking trees? Are we making tears? Are we like people like, oh my gosh, like, you know, we got the point across, right? So this is perfectly acceptable. Introduce yourself, frame the problem, present your solution, amplify your value, and ask for action, right? But that's not what we want. We want to really move people. So this is what I call the reintroduce yourself. When you introduce yourself, you can say, hi, I'm so-and-so, but it's also important, again, what's in it for them? Why do they want to be talking to you? Like how can you shortcut to this moment of trust where they feel like, wow, I'm in the right conversation with the right person? Lots of ways to do that. One might be lead with how you were introduced to each other. Hi, here, you know, I'm Danielle and
your colleague, the Fortune 500 CEO, a pal of yours introduced, said that we should meet. Oh, well, now suddenly, I'm a known person to them, right? Or, you talk about like somebody that you know in common. You lead with, hi, I'm Danielle. We just won the award for the most friendly company to do business with in Massachusetts. Oh, okay. You lead with some big newsworthy event. You introduce yourself with something that is kind of a good conversation starter. So when Diana and I, hang out, or if I'm meeting somebody that Diana, introduced me to, I say, oh yeah, like Diana, connected us, and Diana and I walked the Camino together. So we spent 100 miles, walking together, and, I really got to know Diana, and I just love her. So I love her. So I'm going to love anybody that she introduces me to. So I'm so delighted to be in this conversation. It feels very different, doesn't it? So I want you to write down like something to like reintroduce yourself in another frame, with another kind of like interesting data point. Okay. And no, you're not bragging. Don't worry about bragging. But it might be, just something that you think would be of value to that person. Right. Okay. So before we jump right into like talking about the problem, you also want to show that like you're excited to meet with them as well. And this is like where you can offer some authentic praise. And I don't mean blowing smoke. I mean like something real, genuine, like you've done your homework before you're in this conversation. So maybe they just recently published something. Maybe they, just gave an interview, and you were in the conference, and you heard what they had to say. And you're like, I really appreciated the point that you made about, more people need to be aware of, climate change. I really agree with your point on that. Or, you offer something that shows that you've taken the time to get to know them as well before you jump right into your ask. Okay. So this is also, it goes a long way to building trust. Okay. So I see you, like the most powerful thing we have as humans is I see you, I hear you, I get you. So when you show that you're in this because you see them, then there you've already kind of broken down a little bit of that barrier. Okay. And then we can frame the problem. Oh, I was so excited to be in, when you were keynoting at that conference, because I, got so excited when I heard you talk about how we need to recreate some habitat loss, especially in urban areas. I fully agree, because I represent a company that does, urban beehives. And so we put beehives on rooftops because it's all this open space that's getting underutilized. And it's a great opportunity to increase the pollinators in a city. So can you see how like we get to framing the problem, but already there's like, we feel a connection. So I'm going to pause there because I would love for somebody to try this out now with what they're working on. Who wants to take us step 1, 2, 3 and quick, like we don't have I want to hear from everybody. So let's practice brevity. Okay. What was my rule number 2? Never pass up stage time.
Yeah. Any
All right,
volunteers?
Jackie, beyond retirement, go for it.
Awesome.
Okay. Hi, Danielle. It's nice to meet you. I guess we have Diana as an in-common friend. It's nice to see you here. I'm really, really interested in the elevated elevator pitch that you're doing. I think can really, really help a lot of people with getting their ideas out there. And I know that there are a lot of people these days who are really struggling with the idea of what to do with themselves in retirement. And no one knows better than someone who's done it. But there's always someone who's just struggling a little bit and is looking for help with their lifestyle planning. And that's what I do.
Amazing. Yay.
Love it.
Right? So like I feel a connection, and I feel like I'm like warmed up to you now, and I feel like, you know, I'm ready to listen. Do you guys feel that?
Yes.
Yeah. Different than if she came right out and said, hey, listen, you know, I have this big idea about how to help people in retirement. I'd be like, well, I'm interested in that topic, but like, I hear a lot of people coming at me for that, but now I feel warm to Jackie. So I'm a little like, okay, I'll give Jackie a few more seconds of my time. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Jackie. And I actually do want to talk to you later. Okay. Okay. All right. So now the next piece of it, right, before you offer your solution, is you try to find common ground. You know, you see how they operate in the world. You see some of the other investments they've made. You see some of the other partnerships they've made. You see, you know, maybe if they're a public company and you read their, you know, mission statements and they have objectives that they want to meet, or, you know, you have a customer base in common. You know, you're serving the same customer, but maybe you're coming at it from totally different points of view, or, you know, you're using the same technology, or, you know, like there's 1,000 ways to find common ground. And what this does is now we're getting into lowering the risk. Okay. So remember that point, they want to do things with the least amount of risk. Right. So like finding common ground. So in my example, okay. So you know, we're a company that puts rooftop, you know, apiaries, and actually we've been doing this on every kind of rooftop, from skyscrapers to residential homes to schools to restaurants, and so we actually have a ton of experience around how to make sure that it's safe, and you know, and that we use this unused space. And what we're finding is that employees really love seeing the bees on the rooftop. We're finding that companies can really, you know, brag about, you know, their role in climate change. And we know that that's how you like show up, because we see that you're a LEED certified building and you've got that emblem right on your door. So we know that you care about this problem. So we all care about this problem together, you know, right? So you find common ground so that, like, the person who's listening to you understands that you understand what they go through. Like that you're not only focused on like your solution, right? Like, here, take my solution, here, take my idea, you know, you understand the context, their context in which they have to absorb that idea. You know, sometimes we're like, oh my God, I'm so in love with my idea. Everybody loves my idea, but nobody is picking up on it. Well, sometimes that could be because like it could be super hard to integrate your idea into their world. And it's like, oh my gosh, you know, like, you know, because if I said, oh, well, you know, I've got rooftop apiaries, but I don't know anything about putting things up on a roof, you know, how to do with like leaks and, you know, heat and this and that, like, I don't know anything about that. That's up to you to figure out. Well, that's not going to be all that helpful. So you understand them, you find common ground. Okay. Then you can present your solution. Now there's trust. You've reduced the risk a little bit. Now you can say, and so we come with our van and our professional beekeepers, and they'll come every month to do a beehive checkup. You know, we load the bees, we make sure the bees are healthy. We give the bees medicine and nutrition as they need it. We'll make sure that they're hydrated. We'll make sure that the beehive itself is in good working order. When it's time to harvest, we'll harvest the honey. We'll give you all the honey in jars. In fact, we can have personalized labels. And then along the way, we're collecting the data on the honeybee health, and we're adding that to our corpus of data that we're collecting worldwide. And we'll be publishing our results, you know, to the UN in, you know, in the next couple of months. Yeah, right. So now you're like, you're getting them really excited, right? Because you're presenting the solution in terms of things that matter to them. Who wouldn't want to be part of a report that goes to the UN on how we're improving urban, you know, agriculture? Okay. Okay. So who wants to take us from frame the problem to presenting your solution?
Danielle, I have a question for you.
Oh, sure. Hi, Ellen.
Hi, thank you for this. So is it an elevator pitch? Is it the 14 stories, or is it, I'm contemplating writing somebody an email and reaching out to them to work together. I could use that for that as well, correct?
100%. 100%.
Okay.
So we're going to go through, it's kind of a 9-step model. So by the time we get to the end, there'll be like 9 key points. If you literally had one sentence for each of these, like I can't guarantee, but they'll get to the end of your email and maybe they'll respond.
Right.
I
I
mean,
like the framework for that. But so it's not necessarily you see somebody in the elevator and you're like, hi, I'm Ellen. This is blah, blah, blah. You have somebody that already either knows you or you know about them. And it's maybe more in a networking setting or something like that.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. This is a super flexible framework and you can use bits and pieces of it or the whole thing. And it's not necessarily just technically like the elevator, right? And nor is it just like for raising money or business pitch or something like that. It very well could be all you want to ask for is a meeting. And you kind of go through this and you say, so I'd love to set up a coffee.
Okay.
At the end, or I'd love for you to introduce me to your colleague, or I'd love to, have you read my report when you get a chance, or whatever it is, whatever the ask is. And this is an abbreviated workshop. Usually I start with the ask and we work backwards. So you really kind of actually have to know where your end game is before you start. So let me just spend a second talking about that. When we say like, what's in it for them, you'll also really have to understand your ask. And I know like when I was in corporate and I was head of software engineering and I knew I had to ask, the big boss for a lot of money, for some new equipment or something like this. I'd often go into the meetings and say, all right, listen, Steve, at the end of this conversation, I'm going to ask you for $10 million in funding because we need to, double down on our equipment for a contingency plan. And I'm going to take you through like, my data, my reasoning and the plan and the strategy. And he would be like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you for letting me know upfront, rather than like waiting at the end for like, and now, you go through this whole thing and now let me ask you for $10 million for funding. Like, he's like new upfront, like I'm about to ask you for 10 million. And now I'm going to go through the reasoning as to why. So sometimes you can start at the ask and then go back. Does that help, Ellen? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And Rebecca, you're so right about reframing the problem. Because like, let's go back into the what's in it for them. Where'd you go on my screen? I don't see you. Oh, there you are. I love your earrings. So like reframing the problem, you want to describe it in a frame that matters to who you're speaking to. So let's say, you're talking to an environmentalist. We're going to reframe the problem about loss of habitat. And, we need to save the bees and the pollinators, et cetera, right? If I'm talking to a building manager, I'm going to say, we want to do good in the world, but we want it to be as, least of a lift as possible. Like basically set and forget. You're not going to have to do any extra work. This is not going to add to your operations. It's not going to add to your logistics. We absorb the risk. We show up with our professional beekeepers. We just need a key to the roof and everything's taken care of, right? Like, if you're talking to the business owner, you can say, hey, do you want something to like brag about, on social media? Or do you need something, maybe employees need a little lift or they need a reason to start coming back to the office. Well, have I got just the thing? Bee watching, so you reframe the problem to like who you're speaking to. Yes, totally appreciating the context, Anita. Yeah, absolutely. It also matters where they are in this journey. So what if you're the 5th person that is like wanting to put beehives on their roof and they're like, I'm done with it. Like it was a pain in the neck, it was expensive. We didn't get whatever. Then you have to say, well, really for us, it's about the data. Like we are doing, we're publishing this massive study. And so really it's about the data. Like you find another angle that differentiates what you're talking about from maybe anybody else that's kind of approached them. You're focusing more on the differentiation. Yeah. So this is for a whole nother talk, but a good friend of mine, was the VC that let Mark Zuckerberg go. You know, when you talk about, like, when you hear the famous stories about, you know, Zuckerberg was like looking for an investor for the Facebook, and the VC in Boston turned him down. So that's when he quit Harvard and went to, you know, Silicon Valley, and the rest is history. Well, my friend was the VC who turned him down. Why? Because he just lost money in Friendster, the social media, you know, startup that came right before Facebook. They were kind of at the same time. So when you understand, like, really what the pain points are of the person that you're speaking to, then you can really shape this to, like, for my friend, what he really needed to hear a lot more of was why, like, this whole social thing was actually going to catch on like wildfire. And he just didn't, you know. So, okay. Okay, who wants to take us framing the problem, finding common ground, and presenting your solution? This is so much more fun when people. Go ahead, Tara.
Hi, Danielle. I don't know if we've ever met before, but I'm sure you've been to a library. I know that libraries have a lot of problems with waste, and I have a solution to now I just lost my thought.
That's okay.
So I have a solution to help librarians reach their patrons, to educate them about sustainable materials. And I have an idea for, this is the first time I'm speaking it, so this is good for me.
I'm pulling it from you. Go for it, go for it, go for it. Keep going, don't stop.
So I have a solution of teaching the patrons, the children patrons, about sustainable materials, and making an easy program for the librarians to present to their patrons. And I hope you would join on this journey.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you. So I love, like parts of the way, you know, you were describing that, like, we don't know each other, but we have libraries, you know, I'm sure we have libraries in common. And I suddenly got like this beautiful, like, nostalgic feeling of, you know, like hanging out in the library as a kid, right? So, you know, you can lean in on that a little bit more, and then help me but I don't really understand librarian concerns. So you can help educate me. That's the other advantage that you all have, is that you can make the person that you're talking to just a little bit smarter about the space. And now I'm gonna, like, when you make somebody smarter about something, that goes back to that personal growth thing. Now I can go to my next, you know, cocktail party and be like, did you know what's going on with libraries and waste and this and that and that and this? And then, like, suddenly, you know, right, feel good. So that was good. So, yeah, so thank you. So, and I love the, you know, that you're coming after this with, like, you're earnest. You know, yeah, coming through. So, and thank you so much for doing that the first time with us. So we're gonna go back over and over and over, and then you'll see how this all comes together. All right. So 6:10. Got to keep going. All right. So spike with drama. Okay, this is where things get really saucy and really fun, because here's where you can bring in, like, your best data, your most tearful stories, your best anecdotes, you know, your evidence, your traction, your momentum, your you know, impact, or, you know, you can talk about kind of what's going on in the world, and, like, you can bring a sense of urgency. We got to get there, you know. So spike with drama is like the storytelling part, right? So, and I know there's a million other workshops in storytelling, and we can do that another time, Diana. So spike with drama, like Tara with the, you know, with the librarians, you can be like, librarians are like under siege right now. Like they're like, suddenly they're in the middle of a political firestorm. They want to make good decisions. They want to be seen as the heroes in the community, not the villains. Like you can sort of like get us into sort of the mindset of librarian culture. And Jackie, like, here's where you can say like 65,000 or 10,000 people turn 65 every single day. And they are fully able to contribute economically and, to society. And they're like, there's hardly any options for them. They like retire and then not everybody's going to play golf, and people like have lifetime experience, and it's all going to waste. And we really want to make sure that people are, living meaningful, fulfilling lives. Like you can give us all the data about retirees hitting the market and kind of what happens if we don't solve the problem. What happens when all these people are not, using their minds to their fullest potential and so forth. So you can really get the drama going here. And it doesn't all have to be bad. Sometimes it can be like super joyful and fun, So in my example, be like, well, actually, one of our clients is Fenway Park, and we've got 6 apiaries atop of the green monster. In fact, they're painted Fenway green. And it's always fun to watch the ball games where the outfielders, because all the outfielders from all the professional the ball clubs always know that they're going to have bees in the outfield when they play at Fenway. But what's great is that when we're not playing the ball games, we're bringing up school groups who are looking at the whole Fenway farms, because those beehives are now pollinating a whole entire rooftop garden at Fenway Park. So we're creating all new core memories for kids. It's not only baseball, but it's also like urban farming. So when you layer in a story after you've gone through all of this, it starts to bring the idea to life, and it starts to show how this idea is manifesting, where somebody else, and that somebody else happens to be somebody that, this person that you're talking to like admires or, wants to be like them. Remember the FOMO piece. All right. Okay. Spike with drama. Okay. And the other thing to remember here is this is an opportunity for you to mix, what I say, facts and feelings, facts and feelings, facts and feelings. When you pair these two together, it creates a lot of like movement in your talk. If it's all facts, it might become a little too heady. If it's all feelings, then it might not resonate with somebody who's thinking, a little more like sort of logically. But when you pair them together like artfully, so we can say like, trying to think of like an example. So we could say like facts, like this many bees are dying every year. These many crops are no longer have pollinators, which means nobody's going to have blueberry pancakes starting in the year 2030. There will be no more blueberry pancakes for breakfast on Sundays. Right. So, and boy, that is just a real loss, right. So you kind of go from like, like these big facts, and then you kind of like throw in something that kind of has a little bit of an emotional tug. And when you pair those together, it gives both of them a little more weight. I have an entire workshop just on this, on spiking with drama. So, okay. Then you can amplify your value. So you can see how we've got the same elements of the regular elevator pitch, but what we're doing is just setting them up and giving them a little more oomph. Okay. So spike with drama. So we're losing, pollinator habitat, and pollinators are responsible for so many of the world's crops. And if we don't do anything, by the year 2030, there will be no more blueberries and no more blueberry pancakes. Okay. So here at our bee company, we specialize in collecting data from our apiaries because we want to see what habitats are really helping the bees thrive. And as it turns out, bees in urban environments thrive more than in monoculture environments like single crop farms. and in suburbia where there's a lot of lawns, like bees actually thrive more. And that came from our data. The second thing that we do is we do honey DNA analysis. So we were able to help the government in Puerto Rico recreate all their foliage, like all their plant life after it was mostly wiped out from Hurricane Maria, because we studied the honey DNA of honey taken before the hurricane, and then we studied the honey DNA after the hurricane. We're able to see the delta in the type of plant life that created that honey. So we knew exactly to what level the government needed to replant all their plants. We also have beehives going up with NASA. So we're studying how bees perform in space. And if and when we ever want to colonize Mars or the moon, we'll know how to recreate your hometown, because we'll know what kind of plants to put up in space to recreate Boston, Massachusetts. Okay, scene. Okay. So like when you start layering in other ways that you bring value to this relationship, they're going to have like no choice but to pick you and to want to hang out with you, because it's so rich in the so many different ways that together you can find all these ways to grow. And how many of you felt like I was bragging? Was that braggy? Did that feel uncomfortable? No. And I know we, especially, oftentimes as women, like we're afraid to kind of like show, like talk about ourselves, but we're not. We're amplifying our value so that the person that we're speaking to, like, again, we're building that trust, and they want a piece of that. You're not bragging. What you're doing is you're showing your value. Okay. All right. So we're cruising to the ask here, and we've got about 10 more minutes. So who wants to try it? Like, present your solution, give it a little drama, and then amplify your value. And I know it's hard because we're starting in the middle instead of going all the way down around the wheel, and you can make it up along the way. I am completely making up this bee story along the way, so it doesn't have to be real. It's just for practice. Who's in our chat here? Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca, for contributing. Yes, get an easy.
So Jushen has raised her hand.
Oh, Suzanne, there you are. Okay, sorry, I was looking over the chat. I didn't see you. Hi, Annie, how are you?
Hi,
Yeah.
Danielle.
Okay.
It's great to see you again. We were fellow speakers at the Third Act Quest last year. So thank you.
I'm here to reintroduce yourself, everybody. Now if I have forgotten because that was a long time ago, whatever, like now I'm like, oh yes, I feel very warm to you. Yes, go. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So I'm a documentary filmmaker, currently making a personal documentary called Journey of 1,000 Miles. As a lot of you have either watched or heard the news that this year's top winner at the Oscars, Everything Everywhere All at Once, about an Asian American immigrant family. So my film is about that too. It's about my family. And during the pandemic, what we have all seen is that American families are tearing apart. There's this huge problem of family estrangement, where parents and their children do not talk or connect with each other. In fact, according to cutting edge research at Cornell University, over a quarter of Americans say that they are estranged at least from one parent. And that translates into over 68 million people. It is a more devastating loss than a pandemic than the COVID-19. So through my personal story documentary, I showed how my son and I have gone through challenges while making an animated film in honor of my late husband, that I transformed from a tiger mom to a Zen mom. And we went from a place of tug of war to now being true creative partners and with unconditional love and support of each other. So if you think of the film, Everything Everywhere All at Once, I would say to you that my film, Journey of 1,000 Miles, you can think of it as a quieter, earlier stage, nonfiction variation of the same theme about family, but no less powerful or moving on the essence of love and family. So I would love to explore the topic of my film and invite your input and maybe connection with organizations that would help to support the completion and distribution of this film so that more families can reconnect and heal the wounds. Thank you.
Yay.
Anju, that was beautiful. Yeah, I've heard you speak about your film, but you know, and I was following this beautiful wheel Danielle gave us as she went through it. You did such a beautiful job. I just want to add one thing just from my knowledge of you around the drama. You've got some very powerful drama related to the loss of your husband and you and your son almost getting car napped in Mexico.
Yeah.
That
Right,
makes
there's a
it
drama.
hard to integrate, but there's something that I believe you can, you know, because you said you're a quieter version, you know, you're powerful in what you've endured and what you've created with him.
Thank you, Diana. I also want to just mention briefly to you all and Danielle that I actually have a new speaking client that I'm presenting to in about a month on May 15th through LinkedIn. They found me after they saw my speech. So they invite me to talk at their Asian Heritage Month celebration. I'll now show my film and talk about the power of storytelling. So I really can relate to this very topic, and I appreciate your sharing your expertise, Danielle. It's really on the mark.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, Ju. And first of all, thank you for bringing your story to so many people through this medium. And so, as Diana mentioned, like we can hear parts of the wheel, right? When you talk about the number of people, like you're spiking with drama about like, you know, that there's so many people and estrangement and, you know, through death or, you know, through moving, and you're also vulnerable. So, you know, that could be like common ground when you're talking with somebody, right? Like you can maybe even start, you know, like you know, Diana started with my resume, right? And so you could even start like with me and say, well, like we're both really super busy moms and grew our careers and, you know, like, and trying to raise family at the same time. And it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to find the right balance, right? Like I spent a lot of years trying to find the right balance. Well, now I've gone from tiger mom to Zen mom. How do you feel? You know, it's sort of like, you know, when you connect specifically with somebody, then it starts to become about them too.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to like the intrigue about hearing about your story, what we want to do is take your story from something that's like an intriguing thing for somebody to watch to a necessary, like Zhu Shen isn't just telling me the story of her family. She's doing it in a way that is instructive, that is teaching, that I can learn from it. I'm not just going to be an observer of Zhu's story, but I'm going to be absorbed into it. And so the more you can frame what you're doing on the, again, how the listener will benefit from watching the story beyond just as a biography.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I also was thinking of adding, we may not all have children, but we all have parents, and how we can forge a more intimate and deeper relationship is something that we could all benefit from, something like that.
And so then from, you know, as we pick apart this wheel, if you don't necessarily know your audience, maybe you're speaking to a big group, right? You can start, that's where you do the find the common ground. You can say, so
how many of you feel like your relationships, during pandemic were really strained because you weren't able to see each other, or, you wound up having different political views, or, like things where there's just like real tension, in your precious relationships, and if you feel adrift, whatever, like find that connect point before you launch into,
Thank you.
what you're, because you want to get us nice and primed and ready for the solution, So, yeah. Okay. So I'm just keeping an eye on the time. So now we're going to raise the stakes. So thank you, Shu. So raise the stakes, and this is like you pull out your biggest, and Shu did this, 68 million people, are feeling, strange relationships. Like, whoa, that just got bigger, raise the stakes, for bees, right? Like there's more habitat taken down in cities, and the climate, the UN Council said that we're already at crisis point. And by 2029, we're going to point of no return. We got to get there faster, right? You layer in, like, we got to get there now. It's also where you can lean in on your FOMO. Hey, listen, I really want to get these apiaries on your roof decks. I know you have 29 buildings in the city. We're taking orders. It won't be like another 6 months because everybody else in the neighborhood has already put their order in. We just want to make sure that you're not the only one left out, without the beehive, right? Like startup founders do this all the time. Hey, listen, VC, I'm taking your meeting now, but I got to go because I've got like meetings with 10 or VCs, and, my pipeline's getting full. Like, you raise the stakes, you create the urgency, you create the point of no return, you create the, like, we got to do this now, or like, if you don't like jump on it, you're going to miss the boat. Okay. And then you ask for action. Now the person is really primed, and so Shu, I would say flip the order, right? Say when, like raising the stakes or amplify your value, you can say, next week I'm speaking in front of the Asian American Society of whatever. And, we're creating these workshops where we're going to, practice some of the techniques. And so I'm lining up my calendar now, and, I want to make sure, whatever. We're up for the Oscar nomination, and we're just trying to make sure that, folks get a chance to see it before, like in a small theater, before it costs too much money. Because, once I'm an Oscar award winner, then I'm gonna have to charge more money, like whatever. Like, you just kind of, get it so that people feel like they gotta ask for it now.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're almost at time, but who would like to go around the wheel? And just like one sentence in each square. Do it. All right, Rebecca.
Totally not ready, but I'm going to try anyway.
That's okay.
Okay. So, and I'm probably going to miss some spokes. So
that's okay.
Hey, Danielle, I am so thrilled that you and Diana are working together. I love connecting entrepreneurs and female founders, and I can't even believe that after I introduced you two, that you went on the Camino Royale together. What a story. What a beginning of an incredible journey. And what I appreciate about you is that we both share a really keen interest in the longevity economy, helping entrepreneurs 55 plus, helping smart women thrive. And, the statistics that more women are starting businesses every day, yet fewer than 2% of women founders are getting funded. And now with the recession, funding is getting tighter. It's tougher to get customer commitments. And so I am really excited to let you know that I have this new safe container. It's a female founders test kitchen that is really designed to help these groups of female founders problem solve and get and connect with each other and get real-time feedback and encouragement. And the thing that is really worrisome right now is that so many female founders are under tremendous pressure, they are stressed, they're having difficulty prioritizing, they're getting demoralized with the economy, they're having trouble seeing the forest through the trees, and they're anxious. So we really need them to succeed because it's the female founders that are going to turn this mothership around. So yeah, so I would love your help in connecting me to these women founders and also to various groups that are serving these communities to really help them get to the next level. And don't want to miss this opportunity for them to make their businesses succeed with the help of encouragement of both peers and of seasoned entrepreneurs like you. So I would love to get take a few minutes with you to brainstorm and get some ideas of who I could connect with to really take this to the next level. I'm too wordy.
Well, okay, so,
no,
and
that
I'm
was
gonna say that I
awesome.
heard everything like introduce yourself. Yeah, the common thing. Authentic praise. Thank you. You're welcome. Frame the problem. You did that beautifully, right? Like more women are getting into entrepreneurship and service. Find common ground. Yes, as it turns out, you and I both are worried the fact that women don't get funded as same rate as men. Present solution. Founders texture. Got it. Spike with drama. People are worried. They're scared. They're nervous. They're falling apart. Whatever. I think we missed an opportunity for you to talk about the joy part of drama. You could say, and in our test kitchen, women share their deepest fears, and then we all come up with brainstorm solutions together. In fact, let me tell you about, Amy. Amy came with this and she left with that. And it was a result of what we did together. And I want more Amy's. And that, right? So you can give us a little more story in the drama, like specific examples. Right. Because now I can imagine what happens in the test kitchen. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I know a lot of people like Amy who could benefit. Right. So now I'm adopting the solution in my own head because I see it,
Yeah, I forgot to talk about the getting the sympathetic, both the validation, your problems are not unique, but also specific live coaching and encouragement so they can have peace of mind.
And amplify your value. You can say, I'm a professional coach. I've coached how many dozens, hundreds of women. I can help them with their business strategy, with their practical things, as well as their emotional journey. Amplify your value. Like, I want to hear why you're so amazing, even though I know
And
it.
as a participant in your Founders Test Kitchen to several of your events, and as a believer in the power of connection, I mean, the 333 is all about getting to know, love, and trust and support each other and nurture each other. As an entrepreneur, you're alone. So to me, raising the stakes it is hard to potentially be doing it on your own. And man, just to connect with other women in your shoes,
Yeah. So
this is a useful scenario because just looking at this wheel, I mean, there's a lot of spokes, and just to have 2 words for each wheel, or like, just like a very short haiku for each one is a marvelous challenge.
Yes.
It is a marvelous challenge.
Awesome.
Hard to do it on the spot.
Well, and I so appreciate that you did that, Rebecca. And I just can tell, like, you've also talked about this a lot. So you're, very crisp about it. And you can see how, like, having a structure helps both us as the speaker and the listener to understand where we are in this conversation. Like, are we about to land the plane? Are we just kind of circling around? If people are thinking as they're talking, you can feel it because it just feels like we're just hovering, and you're kind of like, all right, land, land the plane. It's like when you hear the joke forming, the comedian and coming with the punchline, you could feel it developing. My husband watches hockey, and when our daughters watch hockey, I always could turn to him. He could see the play happening towards a goal before anybody else. I'm like, how do you know that? Like, you feel it, right? So you're absolutely right. When you get to like the one sentence or the haiku for each one of these things in the wheel, we know when you're taking off, we know when you're correct, and we know when you're coming in for the landing. And it's just, it's structured, and our brains are designed for that. It's different when we're hanging out, having a glass of wine, or we're just chit-chatting. But when you only have a certain amount of time, you got to be crisp on all these squares. And I don't mean you, I mean like, like
No,
us.
no, 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 no.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
That's great. And I love how just the concept of starting with, in your own mind and like writing it down on paper for everybody here to start with the ask and reverse engineer it. So helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for that, because see, I've listened and I'm going to take that feedback. And the next time I teach this workshop, I'm going to start with the ask in my workshop. I'm going to change my slides. I'm going to work backwards. So thank you, because I think that will help with clarity.
I
So-
want to also draw our attention. Kimberly has an interesting question. If you can give an
Oh, sure.
example of how to use this kind of a process wheel for networking, in a networking situation.
Oh, yeah, totally. This is perfect for networking. So actually, while we do that, I just want to put my contact information in the,
I will take care of that. You
Oh,
go
all
ahead
right.
and talk.
Okay. Yeah. So totally for networking. So I was coaching a client. She's like, I don't like networking because I don't like small talk. I'm like, it is not about small talk. It's about value exchange. We don't have to go and talk about the weather, try to come up with talking about something. Like, it is literally value exchange. Okay. You are important. The other person's important. You're equally important. Okay. So, she went to like this association at the Museum of Fine Arts or whatever, and association meeting. She goes, I don't know anybody. I don't know who to talk to. I said, yeah, but you're both there. You're both looking at masterpieces. You're both at a museum. You're both part of this, MBA group. Start there. Start with the common ground. So like the first part, of this wheel, right? Like, wow, isn't that an unbelievable masterpiece? Like, I love spending time with art, especially because, I spend so much time doing technical work. How about you? What do you do for work? Like, what kind of art do you enjoy? You just sort of like find common ground. And if you're there, like if it is a networking event around something like whatever your space is, the longevity economy or the library association, and maybe you just it came out of a keynote talk. Wow. They were talking about how libraries are going digital. What do we do with all the paper? That's I've been thinking about what we do with all the waste, for a long time. Do you guys think about that in your library? Like try to suss out what the common framing of the problem could be. And when you find that there's alignment, now you can swoop in there with your idea. And oftentimes in networking, we're kind of like almost like starting at the amplify your value. People are always like, hi, I'm this, and I do this, and I offer that. And it feels sometimes it feels like a little much. But when you surround it with like why you're saying that, or like what you want to manifest in the world, you connect it with the kind of world you want to see, then people can get it. You can see like, I am like the tiger mom of libraries. Like, I want to make sure that libraries are so efficient, and I'm so good at it. And I've been working with 50 libraries. My goal is to work with 150 more, because I want to make sure that libraries are here for our kids and our grandkids. Like, it's okay to start with like, boom, because people are attracted to that. People are attracted to people who are confident and know their value and want to share that value with the world and want to connect with other people's value and have more value together. Like, when you come off as just one-sided, then it's like a little boorish. But when you're announcing what your value is because you have the shared interest in making the world a better place, that's when things are magical, combustible, right? Like, I'm cleaning up all the libraries in America because we need libraries for the 22nd century for our grandkids. Who's in? I'd be like, I'm in. I don't even know libraries, but I want to hang out with you, Dara, because yes, I want my kids to be able to open up a book and read, Dr. Seuss the way my father read it to me. Yes, I want that. I'm in, right? So, Diana, I see we're like over time, so I just want to make sure that I say thank you to everybody for your valuable time and attention and your enthusiasm for this topic. So I hope that this was helpful. And I'm willing to stay for a little while longer for anybody who wants some more Q&A.
I just want to say that that your energy your clarity and this beautiful wheel is so powerfully helpful. From my perspective, and I can sense from everyone here's responses and what I'm seeing in the chat. I completely botched your LinkedIn link, but just know that I'll be following up in an email with the attendees, and there were a number of people that RSVP'd who were unable to come. So we'll be posting a recording of your presentation, Danielle, and sharing that along with links. For all of you that did sign up and RSVP, there is the LinkedIn link for Danielle D. Duplin. So if as you say, if you can pop it in there, Danielle, for some reason, I did a typo or something. So I apologize for that. I was having problems with pasting my link. So sorry about that, but fantastic. So we hold this third Act Spotlight on the third Tuesday of each month. Next month, we'll have a woman by the name of Deb Belanger, who is going to speak about corporate women who want to replace their corporate paycheck and start a service-based business. So she will be speaking on May 16th at 5:30. So stay tuned. If you're not already on the Third Act Quest mailing list, you can just go to thirdactquest.com and sign up to be on the newsletter list to get notifications of the upcoming spotlights. You'll also get any other highlights of what's happening. And I thank you again, Danielle. I really learned a lot, and I can't wait for our next get together. Anyone else have any final questions for Danielle? She has put her LinkedIn link there, so I encourage you to follow her and connect with her if there is a public speaking coaching need you have. She is clearly the one to ask to help.
I had a question for Danielle, just maybe a quick tip. What if your elevator pitch is happening amongst a small group of 2 or 3 people? How do you make them all at the start of the show? How do you create that connection? Like would you spend time on that, or would you just kind of pick one person?
Give me a little more context. So are they 2 different, like they're completely different people with different needs?
Potentially. I mean, in a networking situation, it could be that you walked up to a table and kind of like try to do that, kind of, create those connections and decide who you're going to kind of to do that. So you're doing that. And then sometimes in these business sessions, sometimes there's 2 or 3 people that you're kind of pitching to and giving that elevator pitch to. It's not always a one-on-one.
Yeah. Okay. So there's so many ways to answer that question. First, you do have a goal in mind with these networking events and, these pitches and so forth. And so you do kind of have your sort of internal priority order. So let's say, you're talking, there's an investor, and then there's somebody who's just interested in the field, and they're just sort of like a bystander or something. So you want to be kind and nice to everybody, but if you really need to talk to that investor, well, yeah, then you're going to, you kind of prioritize, who you're speaking to. You kind of have to pick, a priority order for if you only have a limited amount of time. And if you're speaking to a small group or a large group, you want to edit your comments towards what your end goal is in mind. Okay. Because when you come up with that ask, you want to make sure as I say, you've earned the right for the ask. You don't get a chance to say, hey, listen, could you give me $10,000 for the beehive, until you've done a little bit of the work to convince people as to why they should give that to you, or $10 million, right? So you do have to have a little bit of a priority order. That being said, if it feels awkward to completely leave somebody out, you have the opportunity to announce, when you're saying certain things, you can say, now, for the data people in the room, for the people who really want to understand the numbers, you actually will make more money in less time using my solution in this way. Now, but for those of you who really care about the impact, the time value to impact will be, people who use the solution will actually improve their lives, within a day or something. You can actually, when you have to speak to multiple different audiences, literally almost announce it, So for those of you who like data, all right, here's for those of you who need to understand the technical stuff, all right, here's a minute. I'm going to tell you about the science that backs up this idea. Okay, for those of you who really, you're new to this space, you really just need to know these 3 things. 1, 2, 3. For those of you who've been in this space for a long, long time, rest assured that we've now taken care of that important thing that nobody else can solve. We solve it now. Like, is that helpful? Like, you kind of preamble it a little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? So let me just close by saying, I think there's a beautiful quote by Maya Angelou that basically says that ultimately people don't care what you say and what you do, but how you make them feel. And I would add, and this is you in spades, Danielle, it's how you feel about what you're sharing. And that is so abundantly, authentically clear. And I thank you for taking the time and sharing with us this evening. And for the rest of you, have a beautiful evening and take good care.
Thank you, everybody. Wonderful to meet you. I look forward to collaborating with you in the future and all your big ideas.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Danielle. Thank you,
Great to
Diana.
see you again.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. So wonderful.
Hi, thanks for contributing, Shu.
Oh, I really enjoyed that. That you are on fire, baby. That was
That's because I'm having a hot flash. Thank you. No, I'm kidding.
literally